Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's study, Spiritism, Inspiring Lives. I would kindly invite you all for us to start to focus within so that we choose to harmonize our minds, our hearts, for these unique and special moments of enlightenment. So we may choose also to focus on ourselves as essentially beings of love and goodness, all of us who are in a pathway of evolution. And in that way, we also connect with enlightened spirits, our good friends who are always with us, and ask that they may bless every and each one of us, so that we can learn together and also make new associations, changing our belief systems, what already is possible for us to do, according to the universal laws that we all bring within us. And within these feelings of brotherhood, of fraternity, of unity, we start today's study. Once more, feel welcome, all of you who are here, all of those who later on may join these reflections. Today, we will be reflecting about the theme, the good life. This theme could be analyzed and reflected from different perspectives. Our focus here tonight in this 1 hour will be focusing a good life within and without, from a perspective of the immortality of the soul, of the reality that we are all immortal beings. So perhaps it may be a bit different for some of you, for some of us, but the deepest understanding about life from a transpersonal psychological perspective, as all the great wise men throughout time always have been referring to us, as some of the references tonight will bring that alight. So we are here then to perceive ourselves as essentially loving and good beings who are in progress, who are evolving, and through a new reincarnation, a new existence, through a new body, as consciousness and evolution, we have the possibility to develop a good life within, and also promoting a good life without, departing from those internal references that we bring already in germ. They need to be stimulated and awakened. We start a reflection with a thought by Deepak Chopra, who says to all of us to make the right choices in life. You have to get in touch with your soul. He already starts from this deeper perspective. When we analyze sometimes from a more body level, we may lack depth in our analysis. And he carries on saying, to do this, you need to experience solitude, which most people are afraid of, because in the silence you hear the truth and know the solutions. Yet this is very important, because all of us, in developing a good life internally, it is fundamental for us gradually to learn to be in silence, to be in our own company, to listen to our own inner voices, to listen to our own inner tendencies, and also checking if they are helping us to live a good life, which means to be balanced, to be healthier, to be stronger in terms of living our experiences on daily basis. And then Joana de Angelis, the Enlightened Spirits, in the book Challenges and Solutions, she helps us also to go ahead with our reflections by saying, with regard to human life itself, we direct its genesis to the divine psyche, which conceived and inspires it, providing the energy which it nourishes itself with, that propels it to grow through the multifarious reincarnations of the immortal spirit. So, regard of our life on earth, as spirits as we are, we regard the essence of our lives from God, the creator of everything and everyone. So we have that seed within us. And as we go on throughout the different reincarnations, the different existences, through different bodies, but carry on expanding our minds and hearts and our internal abilities, we will then constantly be referring to this universal code of love that promotes all of us in our journey. And also in the Spirits book, we are invited to reflect that when Allan Kardec, the French educator, asked the Enlightened Spirits by saying, in which way should we understand eternal life? Because for some of us, perhaps we never heard of that. And then the Enlightened Spirits, in a loving way, they refer to by saying, the life of the spirit is eternal, while the life of the body is transitory and ephemeral. When the body dies, the soul re-enters eternal life. And that is quite consoling, understanding that no one dies, only the body dies, but the consciousness continues. The spirit continues alive and will enter into new experiences, either in the spiritual world or on earth or in different planets where we carry on our learning. And Carl Jung says that I simply believe that some part of the human self or soul is not subjected to the laws of space and time. Here we can see that we are constantly reminded that we need to go deeper in our self-reflections in order to perceive ourselves beyond the physical body. Is respecting our physical body, but understanding the psychological and emotional mechanisms that actually drive our physical body, drives our tendencies through the physical body. And also is important to understand, when he carries on saying, that the soul of man, as Allan Kardec says it now in the book, posthumous work, the soul of man survives the body and retains its individuality after the death of the body. So it's fundamental to comprehend that although the body dies, the spirit, the soul continues alive. We will never lose our own individuality, but we will simply carry on developing it in a healthier state throughout each experience which we choose, to become wiser and discern also in our choices. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. When we think about a good life, and we started by saying to look in a good life within and without, it is fundamental that we choose to look within our heart, which is the center of life within us. The heart meaning the love that comes from God. And then he says, who looks outside dreams, and who looks inside awakes. The invitation is on daily basis, little exercises that helps us to perceive ourselves from beyond the ego state of mind. The objective of this deeper reflection is that we become more familiar, more identified with the essence of ourselves, the self. The good life, as Carl Rogers says, is a process, not a state of being. It is, in the first place, the process seems to involve an increasing openness to experience. It is the opposite of defensiveness. Here, Carl Rogers helps us also to analyze ourselves. What does good life mean to me? I am already able to be willing to develop a good life within. That also means that I will be going through the journey internally to observe and also to contact my own shadows, my own imperfections, my own limitations, my own struggles. And as he said next, the individual is becoming more able to listen to himself or to herself, to experience what is going on with himself. He is more open to his feelings of fear and disencouragement and pain. He is also more open to his feelings of courage, tenderness, and respect. A good life within is fundamental, that we learn to respect ourselves, that we learn to respect our limits, but we also may be choosing to be willing to transcend our own limits in order to expand and stimulate the values of the higher self, which we, through self-awareness, through self-acceptance, choose in a loving way to embrace us as we are and constantly investing and in becoming better than we have been so far. That is part of the natural pathway of evolution. Faith, hope, love, and insight are the highest achievements of human effort. They are achieved by experience. We can even ask us, all of us, where I am with my faith. My faith is based on what? Where I am in terms of hope. Do I have hope in the future? Do I have hope that I can improve myself, that I can become a better person? Do I have hope that a good life is based on goodness within, which is then extended around us where we are? Where I am in terms of love, self-love, what do I understand by that? Is that based on fulfilling selfish tendencies, or are we already more mature or in the pathway of maturing, understanding that love is the ability for us to forgive, to cooperate, to collaborate, to persist and insist in promoting ourselves in the abilities that favor inner balance, inner health. Yes, and by experience, because we need all practice these good values or good references that we bring within as we are practicing them through the law of society, because we are all interconnected. And then Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it faith. So it's fundamental in this journey of evolution, promoting a good life within, that we allow ourselves to become more aware of who we are, that we allow our unconscious patterns or references to emerge to the conscious level. That does not mean that we validate them, but become aware and select what is good actually for us and what is not. The discernment is important to look the good, what is good for me now, what is good for the other, and what is good for me and others on the ongoing journey. Not only what is good for me now, otherwise we could be reinforcing selfishness. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. Again, we can look within which one is the one that I choose to experience, to practice. The objectives of our reincarnation, of our existence, is that we gradually choose more and more to choose to practice love towards self, towards others, towards life in itself. So in that way, our own shadows will be enlightened in using our free will in making new choices, better ones that we previously have. In my solitude, I have bounded much of the incomprehensible subjects of space, eternity, life, and death. What do I understand about allowing myself to have moments of solitude, which means of silence, that we can learn to be comfortable with our own companies and be willing not to defend ourselves from our inner world, but to come closer to it and also understand and ask ourselves, do I feel that I'm the body? Do I feel that I'm from earth? Or do I feel that I'm beyond all of this? Do I feel that I have openness in my consciousness about eternity? Do I have an understanding about life and death beyond the matter? Can I consider that death perhaps may be only on the physical body, but me as a immortal being, I continue to exist, I continue to evolve, I continue to promote myself? And then again, Joanna de Angelis, these Enlightened Spirits, in the book Challenges and Solutions, she comes in our aim and helps us here. To live is a sublime challenge, and to carry it out with wisdom is a blessedness that is available to anyone who chooses decisively to advance, to overcome itself, and to achieve communion with God. To live is a sublime challenge. A good life is our topic today. And as we started, a good life within. So to live, exist, it is a good challenge, a sublime, because essentially we are divine beings. and is available for all of us to live in this way, developing our inner wisdom, as long as we may choose decisively, firmly, always using our free will, that we choose to promote ourselves beyond where we are today, that we also may consider that we are on earth to, as Jung said, to get out of the collective patterns and systems and values, respecting everyone, of course, but promoting ourselves within the individuation, who I am as a unique being in evolution. What do I notice now that I can change, that I choose to change, that I want to promote within myself? Always considering that God is the creator of everything and everyone. He created us with love in order for us to learn to love ourselves, to love others, and also to love everyone around us, beings from the different kingdoms, as we always study. And still, Joana de Angelis says, all proposals and solutions to the existential challenges of life depend on each person, on their effort, perseverance, and confident action. So again, empowering us to stimulate ourselves, for us to understand that people can help us. We receive a lot of external help, yet the internal resolution to change, to promote us for goodness, that depends only on us. It depends for us also to continue to persist, because surely, as learners as we are also of ourselves, we still do mistakes, and we'll do sometimes in the learning process, and it's okay, as long as we persist and continue, so that we learn to trust in ourselves. The whole point of Jesus' life, says Jung, was not that we should become exactly like him, but that we should become ourselves in the same way he became himself. Jesus was not a great exception, but a great example. We always have Jesus, the greatest psychotherapist, the greatest doctors of all, the greatest educator, as our model, that will help us how we can develop new ways of being, new behaviors, new thoughts. So following his example, because he already went through experiences which we still are in need to go through and elaborate our inner world in a better way. True religion is real living with all one's soul, with all one's goodness and righteousness, as we learn from Albert Einstein, who also have in his studies the spiritual element quite often present. So true religion is an internal relationship that we choose to stimulate in our daily lives, in stimulating the goodness that we bring within. For instance, in our homes, with our families, or in our workplaces, constantly carry on developing the ability to forgive others, shortcomings, because we also have our own, and putting the effort into for us to be wiser day by day, also to be more tolerant with others, to be honest, learning to be humble, learning to be more charitable to ourselves and others, learning to be more dedicated in our own evolution process that we all are invited on daily basis. And then we carry on reflecting with Aristotle, which says to us, stated that knowledge is acquired and virtue is exercised so as to obtain wisdom, a good life within and without, as immortal beings. Where are we in terms of constantly, continuously expanding our knowledge in relation to the universal code that governs us all? How is your strength in terms of conquering virtues, which are the values of the higher self? How much effort are we willing to put into? Because in that training, we are developing our own wisdom that is available for all of us. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict within thinking and feeling. So, where I am, I am aware already that perhaps I may be in conflict of what I think and what I feel, or through my self-awareness, I may notice, well, actually, I'm more or less balanced in relation to my thinking and feeling. That is down to our own efforts as a consequence that we reach more inner balance. But even if we are unbalanced, always through self-love, let's invest in time in exploring ourselves and asking for help if we need, in order to become wiser and wiser through the life experiences that the universe presents to all of us. Albert Einstein helps us in saying that God did not create evil, just as darkness is the absence of light. Evil is the absence of God. And we have that also said by the Enlightened Spirits, especially in these dark moments that we live on earth, with the great possibility of self-enlightenment and understanding that the evil that we see around the world does not come from God. God is the creator of everything and everyone. God is love, is the greatest power in the universe. So the evil is the result of our evil tendencies or inferior tendencies that individually as unique beings we bring with us, and it is expressed in the collective environment. So we all can choose on daily basis not to focus that much the evil and badness that goes on in the world, but how much can I overcome my own imperfections? How much can I choose to enlighten on with the guidance of God that we know that we all bring within, because we have been created by God. We still are guided by God through His love, not through punishment, through His love. The purpose of education is to educate each one of us to think critically and to think intensively, as we learn by Martin Luther King's reflections. Character plus intelligence, that is the objective of true education. Are we willing to educate ourselves in ethical moral values? When I refer to ethical moral values, I refer to the code of ethics, which is universal, which is equal for every being in different stages of evolution. So here we are reminded, for us to diminish the evil on earth or the darkness on earth, we all are invited to educate ourselves from within, where the code of the higher education references are already, as long as we choose to change our mentality, to take responsibility for our emotions, for our actions, and constantly be willing to renew ourselves. Education must enable a man to become more efficient, to achieve with increasing facility the legitimate goals of his life. The legitimate goals of our life is to educate ourselves towards goodness, towards fraternity, towards solidarity, towards forgiveness, towards tolerance, towards inner peace. That is what we are aiming to conquer on a daily basis. And believe me or not, but right now on earth as we are, we all can choose to enlighten ourselves and also to promote inner peace, as long as we favor moments of solitude, of this introspection, and choose really to advance in these potentials that we bring within. The knowledge of duty and of virtue and the virtue of responsibility go hand in hand, as Joanna de Angelis says. Knowledge, as more as we learn about the universal laws that are available to every human being, we also will learn that the virtue of responsibility, which is a virtuous value within. Responsibility means internal autonomy, inner freedom, where we choose what is right, what is good for us within and also without, so that we are constantly elevating our abilities to interact with ourselves with more wisdom. There is, as it were, a restlessness, a discontent, a lack of confidence in the true value of life. And that is true where we are these days on earth. Pessimism is the moral disease of our time. It is the illness of the soul that comes through the collective way of living. But we are here, back to earth, this beautiful school of learning, for us to overcome the pessimism in educating ourselves in a favorable way according to the goodness that we bring within. The negativity or the pessimism that we see so intensively reflecting through phases and degrees of depression. Some people feel suicidal, some people feel they don't have any meaning in life. All of these reflects the inner self, which is not good, but we can promote it and heal these aspects, changing our minds, changing our hearts. It is important to reflect in the Spirits book when, again, Allan Kardec asked the Enlightened Spirits in saying, which is the most meritorious of all virtues? Then we think, well, is there one who is better than the others? Or what can we learn in order even to rescue us from us in relation to this level of pessimism that we are facing on earth? And then the Enlightened Spirits are teaching us by saying, all virtues are admirable, as they are all signs of progress and of moral path, in the moral path. Every act of voluntary resistance to the seductive influence of temptations for wrongdoing is a sign of virtue. But the sublimity of virtue entails the sacrifice of self-interest for the good of others without having any interior motives. The most meritorious of all virtues is based on the most disinterested charity. So how do we then develop a good life within so that we override our memories with eventually pessimism, negativity, that we focus outside and we think that everything is bad in the world? Changing our ability to stimulate different references that still are in need for us to contact and constantly train our minds. It's all about focusing, it's all about repeating, it's all about practicing this willingness of doing good, the willingness to be charitable. Charitable, in a sense, we here refer more on the psychological and emotional dimension, which is to be benevolent with everyone, to be indulgent with ourselves and others, to be forgiving with ourselves and others, so that we become more flexible and therefore also heal ourselves. And then we also learn with Leon Denis in the book The Big Enigma, when he says, God is the spirit of wisdom, of love, and of life, the infinite power that rules the world. And we could even complement that also rules our own existences. God is the spirit of wisdom and love, and the infinite power. So any moment that we may feel disempowered, which is comprehensible in the stage where we find ourselves, let's allow ourselves to have some moments of solitude, of inner connection, listening to ourselves, and also connected to the infinite power so that we feel revigorated and stimulated through the divine love within. The only way to save society in danger is to raise the thoughts and hearts, all the aspirations of the human soul to the infinite power, as the French philosopher Leon Denis is telling us. And that is a challenge for all of us. But at the same time, we are here to be challenged in the school earth, is to overcome our negativity, is to overcome belief systems which are not helping us to become healthier, are not helping us to promote. So we need to come closer to this infinite power and allow ourselves to be nourished by it. To apply new methods, new people are needed. For the free science of tomorrow, free spirits are needed. So new methods. Well, do we believe that we are on earth in need of new methods? I think the majority of us would start to believe. The way that things are going, there is something which needs to be actualized in terms of values. But at the same time, Leon Denis is also helping us to reflect by saying that for the free science of tomorrow, there is needed free spirits. Free spirits meaning that we are in need of be willing to look life, to look ourselves, to look the experiences from a different perspective, freer, not attached to certain concepts that inevitably all of us will need to change. Because when we refer evolution, evolution means change. So let's choose to open up, to be freer, so that we can already start to build a good life within as we are learning in this beautiful journey of evolution. But at the same time, we are referred by Plato, who says, strange times are days in which we live, when old and young are taught falsehoods in school, and the person that dares to tell the truth is called a lunatic and a fool. What have I learned in this school? What have I learned with my family setting, society setting, without criticizing any one of those, but really challenging my own belief systems, be willing to discern better what is good, what is the truth, from which perspective. I am looking the truth from a human perspective, or are we already expanding our consciousness to reach or to connect with the infinite truth that comes from God? And the truth that comes from God is always based in love. The greatest mistake that physicians make is that they attempt to cure the body without attempting to cure the mind. Yet, the mind and the body are one and should not be treated separately. Still is Plato, since the old times, telling that. A good life within. A good life without. So, the great mistakes is when we look only on the physical level. And here he mentions the physicians, but we can also bring it to ourselves. How do I analyze myself? Where do I think that the causes of my suffering or of my falsehoods or of my limited negative belief systems come from? From my physical body? No, as Plato says, the mind and the body are one. The causes of our afflictions or the causes of our well-being or the causes of the goodness that we feel within comes from the spirit who we are, through our choices, through what we already assimilated in relation to the truth, and how far we also choose to change that from now onwards. Before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that make him sick. Hippocrates, the greatest doctors in the old times, is telling that already. Good life within is a healthier life. It's not a perfect, but a healthier, where we submit ourselves more towards the greatest goodness that comes from God. And also, if I want to be healed, to create a better life within, I also need to ask myself, I am willing to give up the causes that promoted the disturbances, because we cannot be healed and carry on feeding the old values. We need to be willing to let go the causes of our pains or our sufferings or our imbalances. And then also we carry on learning now with St. Augustine. All of those, the greatest men in the old times that are referring to us how to promote a good life. And he's saying then, let's us understand that God is a physician, and that suffering is a medicine, not a punishment. A good life. Suffering is part sometimes in our journey as learners. It's not a punishment. It is a lesson. It is an invitation that comes from the greatest love of all, that comes from God. Look within. The way that you are relating with you is not good enough anymore. You can choose now to learn new ways. And there, be obedient in relation to the greatest physician and accept what the learning is and educate ourselves towards that. Trials and tribulations offer us a chance to make preparation for our past faults and sins. I would say from our past imperfections, from our past shadows and limitations. On such occasions, the Lord comes to us like a physician to heal the wounds led by us, by our imperfections, as I mentioned. And he still says, tribulation is the divine medicine. It's very different than how we sometimes perceive it. It's merely because we still are quite immature. And it's like babies, we don't want to suffer, we don't want to be challenged in our comfort zone. And yet that is a natural mechanism for us to grow outside the comfort zone so that we become more comfortable within the truth, as we mentioned previously. Martin Luther King still is referring by saying our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. He is already back to the spiritual world for quite some time, and yet it's almost like exactly what we still are seeing on earth. Education without morals is like a ship without a compass, merrily wandering nowhere. How is our inner self? How is our inner being? Do we have a proposal of self-education that promotes us, or are we referring to values which are more feeding our inferior tendencies? And then we are moving around, we are not changing for better, we will not develop a better world in ourselves and also around us. There are questions that we leave for all of us to raise with them. And he still says, I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In the society where there still are a lot of prejudice, we bring the reflections to us as immortal beings. Do I have any prejudice in relation to the color of the skin of other people? If I'm in the position of a mother or a father, I'm educated my children towards a character, towards ethics, to respecting everyone as valuable human beings despite of the color of their skin. Because the new generation, the children of today, will be the new society, the men of the new society of tomorrow. So it's important that we also create goodness again in changing, in actualizing, in understanding that we are not the color of our skin. We are immortal spirits, essentially beings of goodness, and refer to others, especially those in color, that we also can refer to them in a loving way. Educate the children, and it won't be necessary to punish men. What a great lesson for us, as we started by saying, to develop goodness within and around us as well, to invest the opportunity to educate our children in a more ethical way of respect, of love, of brotherhood, of fraternity, so that we have less work in the later generation to go through punishing men through their mistakes because they haven't learned yet how to behave in a good way towards self and others. We are challenged to develop a world perspective. No individual can live alone, and anyone who feels that he can live alone is slipping through a revolution. The world in which we live is geographically one. The challenging that we face today is to make it one in terms of brotherhood. What a deep reflection. A good life wouldn't be a good life if all of us within already have developed brotherhood, that we can live fraternally amongst each other without hating, without slandering, without vengeance. That would be a good life, wouldn't it? So even if we are not there as a society, let's start from within. We have the inner freedom to become better day by day. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing for others? A good life. Do I think that a good life is having money? Do I think that a good life is looking after my own desires and needs only? Do I think that a good life is for me to go wherever I want to go, to do whatever I want to do? Or do I think that a good life is also looking after myself and others, and not only about me and mine? A good life, what I'm doing for others in order to promote goodness within and without, so that we favor a real good life in our existences, not only for this short period here, but beyond. If there were in the world today a large number of people who desire their own happiness more than they desire the unhappiness of others, we could have paradise in a few years. Are we willing to promote more happiness towards others? And that depends if we choose to develop a good life within. Is stimulating goodness, is stimulating to smile to others, to help others, to forgive others, to cooperate towards the good projects in the world, to relate with people with good intentions also. It's very profound, this slide here. If all of us individually choose internally to desire our own happiness, guiding our consciousness in relation to the divine truth, then we will diminish the tendencies or inner tendency to promote unhappiness through gossip, slander, to hatred, through vengeance, as I mentioned already. We all can do that. We all are invited to do that. The time is always right to do what is right, meaning the power of now. In the moment, in the present, we can do right now the way that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we behave in our homes, with our families, in our societies where we are, in the streets, wherever we go. Always there will be opportunity. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of selfish or destructive selfishness. What is our preference here when it says every man he will walk chooses where he wants to walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of self-destruction? That is an option. But when we consider a good life within and without, then surely we all will choose gradually to diminish or to grow out of destructive selfishness and promoting creative altruism in our minds, in our hearts, in our behaviors, in our actions. Understanding that healing comes only from that which leads the patient beyond himself and beyond his entanglements with ego. A good life. All of us want to be healthier, isn't it? But sometimes we are quite ill, psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually. And as we mentioned previously, the illness from a transpersonal perspective is an opportunity for us to change our negative thinking or pessimism or inferior tendencies, and to promote our consciousness that we connect with the self, the essence within us. Thinking is difficult, that is why most people judge. Here Carl Jung is telling us, well, Evanise or anybody else, if you have the tendency to judge others, to criticize others, to slander about other people, you actually are still in need to discipline your mind, to focus your mind in more constructive ways of understanding that we are all brothers and sisters in humanity, that we are here not to judge others, neither us, that we are here to analyze us and to promote us beyond the ego state of mind in order to, let's say, heal our low self-esteem or inferior complex, promoting high self-esteem, promoting self-worth in these new ways of being. An act is a living unity of theory and practice. A good life requires new ways of understanding ourselves and life, and requires also practice, behavior, so that we behave accordingly. As I mentioned previously, we always still do mistakes, but good life comes in developing the inner wisdom, where we choose now, day by day, through our own mistakes, to overcome them and to improve and to become better with our relationship with us and with others. The ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. A good life. Do I understand it is to occupy a good position in the world? We all, as spirits, need to go through and will go through in order to learn, but that is not the ultimate measure of a man. The ultimate measure is when we are facing challenges, how are we sustaining ourselves? How much good are we willing to testify within ourselves? Because all of us will be facing challenging moments in our pathway of progress. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. A good life comes from self-enlightenment, comes from enlightening the environment where we are through manifesting the goodness that we are able already to practice in our daily lives. Let's not be timid in that. Let's be persistent in being good beings. One does not become enlightened by visualizing images of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Meaning, we will not enlighten ourselves to thinking about how enlightened we are if we don't want to look in our own darkness, in our own shadows, which they need to be acknowledged by us. They are part of us. They need to receive our love and then to transcend it in renewing our concepts or values or understandings about certain behaviors that we may have. And Jung still says, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. A good life is understanding ourselves better and better. So if I irritate myself in relation to others' behavior, what Jung is saying, look within, analyze yourself, the cause of your irritation. And surely it will lead us to negative, limited belief systems which are rooted in selfishness and pride. And we can there and then choose to rescue us from us and choose in that moment to actualize our thoughts, to actualize our belief systems. Otherwise, hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. So where I am, I can ask myself, all of us right now, I am in the reference of love, which I'm training, or in the hatred. Hatred is very bad. It's not a good life that we promote within and also in the world. Let's promote more love, more forgiveness, more tenderness, more silence that we also need so much. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. In practicing the truth, in practicing goodness, we are becoming excellent through the effort that we put into, and therefore also impacting the world in developing goodness. The world will change when all of us individually will change our inner world for goodness, fraternity, solidarity. Strong minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people. I can even ask myself, as a mortal being, as a conscience in evolution, as a conscience that is coming from the collective massification systems and promoting my individuation, where do I sincerely find that I am? In the strong minds that discuss ideas, In the average mind, they discuss events outside, the weak minds, they discuss people. Surely, if we are focusing on a good life, we want to gradually promote our minds and become strong so that we can discuss ideas regarding to the universal truth. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not a truth. How much do we disturb ourselves by or not? How much wisdom do we have within to understand that what we hear is an opinion that could be correct or not? How do we respond when we hear ideas, when we see different events? Death offers mankind a full view of truth. If we are not awakening while we are still in the flesh, in the physical body, the physical body will die and we carry on alive, all of us. And sooner or later in the spiritual world, we will become aware of the true self, of the true reality. But we don't need to wait to reach that point. We already can study as we are doing it, and so many other options are available that we can enlighten ourselves. And when is the time for us to depart from the physical level, we are already more in contact with the truth, the universal truth that we refer here. When everything you see appears in dark, gloomy shades and seems baleful, and you want to tell others only bad and unpleasant things, do not trust your perceptions. Treat yourself as you were drunk. Take no steps and actions until this state has disappeared. A good life, that is a very good example for us to train ourselves. When the madness within emerge, when the shadows within emerge, let's not take any action at that moment. Let's stand back and let's recover ourselves. Let's invest in healing ourselves and re-educating ourselves, as we previously mentioned already, towards goodness. So that we become lucid, that we become aware of our own goal with ourselves, which is promoting goodness. That helps us a lot in becoming stronger in the willpower and also to discipline our own on our thoughts or on belief systems. Always bear in mind that we have options. It is not possible to be in favor of justice for some people and not be in favor of justice for all. Where I am when I'm developing a good life as an immortal being, according to the universal laws. Do I feel that I seek justice for my dear ones, but I'm okay with the injustice with others? Or are we already in a stage that we are sincerely, honestly willing to promote the divine justice within so that we can promote justice for everyone? Because the divine justice is equal for all of us based on the law of cause and effect. The moral crisis and decadence of our age stems in large part from the fact that the human spirit has been immobilized for a long time. That is Leon Denis referring to us, this great French philosopher who is helping us throughout time, referring again what we are facing on earth is the consequence or the lack of ethics within the individuality, each one of us, and therefore on the collective. But again, we are here to promote the goodness within. We all bring shadows, but we can put effort into to overcome that. No longer laziness, no longer feeling pleasure in refuting the possibilities that the universe presents to us. There is a state of unsettling crisis, says Leon Denis. Beneath the shining surface of a refined civilization hides a deep malice. Irritation grows in social classes. The conflict of interest grows every day. The feeling of duty has weakened in the popular consciousness to such a extent that many people do not even know where duty is. That has been said long time ago, but it still is very actual for all of us here. A lot of people are lost on earth in relation to their own duty with themselves, in relation to the real values in life. And that this deterioration happened gradually. And gradually we are now helping to cooperate to build a better world, to to develop the inner duty. Duty is a sentiment of compromising with our higher selves. It's not something outside, it's inside. And then Leon Denis still says, one epoch comes to an end, new times are announced. The time we are in is one of crisis. The exhausted forms of the past are weak and crumble. To make the way for others, at first vague and confusing, but will define themselves more and more. This is the epoch where we are living on earth. The old values, they are not fitting in anymore. They expired. But the new ones in construction, they are not consolidated yet. And we all, as beings in evolution, creating a good life within and without, we are here to consolidate the inner values of truth based on the universal ethics. What is good for me is good for others, is good today, is forever. And in that way, we are cooperating to develop a new society where goodness will prevail within all of us. Each member of society, instead of claiming factitious rights, should strive to become worthy of them by increasing its own value and its share in the common work. The social ideal is transformed. The sense of harmony develops. The field of love for others is widened. These are the references that will dominate in a good life. In a good life, when I say from a transpersonal perspective, not a good life from a materialistic perspective. It's very consoling and very inspiring to see there is light on the end of the tunnel for all of us. To be a Christian without prayer is no more possible than to be alive without breathing, says Martin Luther King. Because again, we are here in this turbulent phase. Prayer is a reference that, or a tool that is available for all of us to use in a sense to strengthen us in our journey of developing the goodness within ourselves. And in case we don't know or we don't have much references of a good value, we refer to the Gospel according to Spiritism in the chapter 17, the good person, and we go through with some references that may help us to reflect about developing the goodness within. The good person deposits their faith in God, in His goodness, in His justice, in His wisdom. They know that without His permission, nothing can happen, so they submit themselves in all things to His will. Good people have faith in the future, which is the reason to put spiritual possessions before those of the temporary nature. They know that all vicissitudes of life, all pain, and all deceptions are trials or atonements, and accept them without murmuring. Men and women who possess the sentiment of charity and love do good for the sake of goodness, without waiting for payment of any kind. They repay evil with good, take up the defense of the weak against the strong, and always sacrifice their own interest in the name of justice. The good person is always good, humane and benevolent with everyone, without distinction as to race or creed, because they see all men and women as brothers and sisters. They respect all sincere convictions in others and never condemn those who think otherwise. The good person has charity guides them in every circumstance, because they know that those who hurt others with evil words, who harm others with their pride by discarding their susceptibilities, or whom know they could avoid it, do not draw back at any thought of causing suffering, however small, lack the obligation to love one's neighbor. Obligation in a sense of duty of consciousness. Love one another means respecting each other. Surely we have different sentiments towards different people, but it's respecting, is silencing our own inner disturbances and be willing to develop the goodness within. Good person, they do not harbor rancor, hate, or desire vengeance. Instead, they follow the example of Jesus by forgiving and forgetting all offenses. They remembering the benefits received because they know that they ourselves shall be forgiving only inasmuch as we are able to forgive others. And also the good person, or the good aspects that a person can develop. Good people study their own imperfections and work decisively to overcome them using all their strength, so that tomorrow they will be able to say that they are a little better than they were the day before. It's possible for us day by day gradually. They use but not abuse the possessions which have been concealed to them, because they are only a deposit for which they will be required to give full account. They know that the most detrimental employment that these riches can be put to is the satisfaction of their own passions. And in these points of reflection, how we can possibly develop aspects of goodness, of course, there are much more than that. We also bear in mind, as we are coming to the end of our reflections today, that perhaps we can say what Mother Teresa of Calcutta already said. I'm just a little pencil in the hand of a written God, sending a love letter to the world. How about each one of us choosing also to do that? Because Mother Teresa of Calcutta was a being on earth who showed us through her way of being how to live a good life within and without, helping ourselves and helping others. And in that way, we are coming to the end of this time for today's thoughts that we are sharing with you, with all of you, and also applying to ourselves, so that we may be willing to practice more the goodness within, that we all have the seeds given by God, essentially the love that promotes maturity, the love who develops responsibility, the love who makes efforts to renounce the transitory experiences which are not relevant for promoting the real goodness within. And in that way, with our hearts full of love, we say thank you for all the blessings that we received today, for all the enlightened spirits who have been with us, inspiring every and each one of us through the reflections. We give thanks for our existence. We give thanks for all the wisdom in the world that already have been presented to us throughout centuries, and always presented again, so that we gradually can learn and nourish ourselves and truly become better beings, truly be willing to develop a good life in a spirit with God. A true life, a good life, which reflects humbleness, charity, tolerance, inner peace, forgiveness, benevolence, indulgence, openness, to learn constantly in our existences with all of those who are with us in the flesh or not. May the good and enlightened spirits bless every and each one of us, and may we be more stronger to carry on seeking goodness within and without, today, tomorrow, and always. Much peace to all.